Hello, I'm Robin Boyce, and welcome to City Corner. We've got a group of St. Louis leaders here in the studio to talk with you about some of the things that are going on in the St. Louis community. Come on back. Welcome back to City Corner. I hope you're going to tune into this episode. It's going to be pretty exciting. It is for me. This is a reunion show of some young leaders that I had an opportunity to mentor and work with over 26 years ago. And they are Michael McMillian, Johanna Wharton, Etafia Umani, James Clark, Naim Gray, Jermaine Johnson, and Kevin Bryant. Thank you all for coming in. This is the Magic 108 Peer Panel. This is a group of young people who 26 years ago, Michael instigated everything, came to the studios where Magic 108 was located many, many moons ago on the Bolivar. And Michael, tell us, you came into the studio and you were 17 years old.
Well, Robin, first of all, I want to say thank you for bringing us all together and being a true blessing and a godsend in all of our lives over these past 26 years. You have been, continue to, and will always be a treasured part of all of our adult lives and how we have developed. And as you said, I was in high school with Etafia and Jermaine, and we were starting the Black Student Union at Bishop DeBerg High School. And we were wanting to meet with people in the community who were leaders, who were out making a difference, helping others, and changing St. Louis. And we said, well, we have to talk to Robin Boyce. And having never met us, you were so sweet to talk to us and give us guidance, give us the kind of mentoring that we needed, and then put us on the air for the Magic 108 Peer Panel, where we came every month and talked about issues in the community, how we could make a difference, how we could motivate other young people, and how we could continue to make a difference. And the Lord has blessed all of us to continue to be able to do that for the past 26 years in various roles, and you have always been supportive of each and every one of us and collectively as we continue down those paths.
I really am proud of all of you. Every last one of you have either started your own businesses. I've even sat across in a conference room with Kevin most recently in a really back-to-back, we were going at it. I mean, Kevin, your business is called Conversions, but it was in COSI. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I started in COSI 17 years ago, and again, thanks again for all
you used to bring your sketchboard into the studio and sit there and sketch.
Absolutely. Actually, from the Peer Panel, I ended up opening 2 bookstores with Amazon and everything. That is, of course, all changed. So I leaned into my fastball, which was marketing. And since then, I've grown in COSI, and COSI turned into Conversions. I'm actually opening an office in Atlanta in about a month called Pro Level Marketing. So it all came from being able to reach out and touch other young people like me that seem to have a lot of direction and a lot of focus and a lot of intensity, because where I'm from, I didn't know a lot of other people like us. So meeting Etafia and Mike and James and Naim, it was just a godsend.
Yes, so you all came together and you really seem to work together where we did lots of projects. Right now, Etafia, you're a counselor at Cardinal Ritter Prep High School.
I'm the director of guidance there. And again, I would like to reiterate the sentiments of Kevin and Michael in terms of thanking you for your support, your input, your guidance throughout this time that we've had here.
It's my pleasure. But working with young people now like you do you think about when you all first approached me to come on the show about some of the things you were going through?
Yes, I mean, the more things
you take those things and what your life experiences to work with the kids?
Oh, definitely. The more things change, the more they stay the same. The same kind of problems that we had then are still being reflected now in the youth in many ways. They feel marginalized, they feel alienated to a large degree, and they look for positive groups to try to become a part of in structures or what have you. So the same kinds of things that were going on then are still continuing to go on now. A lot of just
and it's a blessing that you're there to just continue to make that?
Oh,
move?
definitely. The guidance that we had during the peer panel, the projects and activities that we were involved in, trying to make a significant, substantive, viable community change is something that I incorporate into everything that I do.
Excellent.
So that's something that I constantly stress to young people is to try to be a part of the change that they want to see.
Naim, you are a case where you work in housing for Better Family Life right now as a manager over there and helping people get into housing, et cetera, et cetera. You were probably one of the youngest members in the group when we started out. What has it been like for you to see everybody grow into the leadership? Mike McMillian, now CEO, president of Urban League, moving up, and you all working together, Jermaine, you and James over at Better Family Life. What has that been like for you to see everybody just grow into what leadership should be about in St. Louis?
Well, fortunately, I've had mentors like yourself, and then older brothers is what I call them. And it has absolutely been a pleasure to watch them as they chart new courses throughout the city. It's motivated me to ensure that then I grab and reach down to those who I consider my little brother to mentor and do the same things for them.
It's
So
great,
it's
but
been a
it's
pleasure.
wonderful that you all have stayed together. You continue to talk with each other. You're now at different nonprofit organizations collaborating with each other on all different kinds of projects. Johanna is Grace Hill Settlements. Now you're vice president, executive
Vice
director.
President. of
My
Grace
babies,
Hill
you see,
Settlement House.
It's Sharon.
Executive Vice
I'm
President.
so proud of y'all. You all just grown up and just moved on, and you're doing some things down there. Grace Hill is just blowing up. You all are doing a little bit of everything in the community now.
Yes, Grace Hill is one of the largest nonprofit organizations in the city of St. Louis. We're a $20 million organization, well over 100 years old, and I'm responsible for all of Grace Hill programs.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Making sure everything is running and it's looking good. I see you have operations on the south side of the city of St. Louis. There's is that a clinic that's over there for Grace Hill, or a daycare center?
On the Settlement House side, we have 5 offices throughout the city of St.
Okay.
Louis, east of Graham. We have 2 on the south side.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. You've got a lot of things that are going on across the city, but
Right.
in your development and coming on the Peer Panel Show, when you were going through the processes of the projects that we had involved, we got to talk about some of the projects.
Right.
James, you brought up some of them, and I forgot that we even did that.
Right.
But some of the processes that we went through, did that help you make a decision to do what you're doing right now in your career?
You and the experience has definitely been a catalyst in my life. In the early years of when we were on the peer panel, I was growing up on Union and Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the cleanups, on Union and Martin Luther
We
King.
made that big attempt, didn't we?
I remember doing that and being proud of that. Later we moved to the south side, but for me, I was living in the city of St. Louis, but attending Clayton High School in the DSEC program. And I was trying to find my voice as a leader. I was living, in one community and navigating in another community, and there were certain things that I liked and certain things that I didn't like about what was going on in Clayton at the time. And through the program and being able to network with a group of people that I had some common experiences with, I found my voice as a leader. That translated into going to a HBCU and graduated.
Awesome.
And so by the time I, reconnected with Etafia at St. Louis University School of Law, I was no longer in a position where I was going to be acted upon.
You were doing
As a
it.
young
You
person.
were making it happen. You were
I've been
shaking
in
it.
charge, of my destiny, and I thank you for that.
No, thank you
Right.
for just, no, you all had it in you. It was just a matter of guidance and saying, hey, there are some options here. Jermaine, when we did the cleanup of Martin Luther King, did that inspire you to do what you're doing now with reference to case management with Better Family Life?
Absolutely. I think everything we did as a collective is what led us to where we are today. It gave us, values and things that we can really stick to throughout our whole lives that will keep us on track and keep us doing the things that will, positively affect our community.
Excellent. James, you are now outreach director for BFL. You've been on the forefront of getting some things done with reference to neighborhood collaborations. Was what we did with the peer panel an impetus for what it is you're doing right now?
I mean, Robin, we owe it to you. You know, we have got to give thanks and honor to God first. And when you look at the positions that we sit in individually, I see God pulling us back together right now for what we currently face. Just to say, I brought you this far together, just to confirm that we need to work closer together moving into the future. So it has. Everything that we've done up to this point has prepared us for what we're dealing with as a community, then as a nation. And so all of the lessons that we learned on the peer panel, then it was you that took this group of young men and women and said, you all need to go to the Better Family Life meeting, because obviously you saw that your mentorship could only take us so far. We began to attend the Better Family Life meetings Friday mornings at 10 o'clock, Friday evenings at 7 o'clock, and then we were introduced to the Sewards, the Ahmeds, and then their mentorship quickened us all. And the beauty of it all was, it was all about keeping it real, not just to intellectualize about the problems, but to put things in place that can serve the people who we had seen then were systematically cut out. Today, that same segment of the community is more systematically cut out. And we're in a position right now to make some measurable changes and change the course of St. Louis and change the course of America.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about that. I wanted to make sure everybody knew who you all were and what your backgrounds are. And folks are always saying, where are the young black people? Really? You know, here we are sitting right now, individuals who had opportunity, and decided, I want to learn more about how to get to where I need to go. The Board of Alderman meetings, those kinds of things. I loved exposing you all to that. But we're going to come back because we've got a lot of things happening here in the St. Louis area that we need to discuss further. I'm Robin Boyce with City Corner.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you. Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Nice. Yes, go! Yes, yes, yes! No! Come on! Oops. Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy.
Works every time.
Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
and welcome back to City Corner. I'm Robin Boyce, and we're here with the Magic 108 Peer Panel. Magic 108, first off, let's get that. That was a radio station that explained to the audience a signal at one time that was primarily an urban contemporary radio station, probably one of the first FM stations that became, you know, African-American music was played, soul music outside from the old KATZ AM radio station back in the day, blah, 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 blah. Just to give you all a little history. It is now 107.7, which is Z, but, and was owned by a totally different company. But at the time, it was the mighty, mighty Magic 108 Peer Panel. So we've got some stuff going on in this community right now that has just been very explosive. We had a lot of things going on 26 years ago, and we saw some beginning stages of some things happening, but we were doing some things. I left St. Louis maybe about 15, 16 years ago, came back, and it just seemed like everything stood still. Nothing happened. What happened? What happened? Did we keep moving? Did we stop? Did we get comfortable? Anybody just jump in. I mean, what happened?
Well, Robin, I think that it's a combination of all those things. St. Louis has a lot of potential, but individuals and organizations exist in silos. Okay. There are a lot of individuals that are doing a lot of good things. There are a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of good things, but the communication is not always there. Then the next barrier is we have allowed pockets of our community to go underserved. Okay. We know exactly where those pockets are, and so when you see the progressive erosion of the human capital in the urban core, it's because of our collective inability and unwillingness to go out and touch the people who we know their boats are stuck at the bottom. They have no sense of hope, no sense of upward mobility, and now we see that we've got to change direction and we've got to shift the paradigm.
Really quick, Etafia, you were going to say.
I was going to echo the comments that James made just in general. There's been a systematic lack of investment and opportunity for those that have been consistently at the bottom. And with that lack of investment, has led to a sense of hopelessness, you know, oftentimes. So, you know, what you're seeing in terms of the stagnation is just a reflection of what we're getting out what we're putting in. If we're not investing in those populations and trying to make them as enfranchised as possible, then we're going to have some of the eruptions that
then you have people who have created programs at the community colleges. The Urban League, I know, has lots of programs that helps a lot of people out from housing to utilities to jobs. And then you have individuals who are not taking advantage. How do you get the individuals, you know, needs the help to get there? What happens? How do you get them there, Michael?
Well, as you mentioned, there are many different programs that currently exist. At the Urban League, we serve almost 80,000 people a year throughout the entire region, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, East St. Louis, and St. Clair County. But as we look at the data, our number one demographic are single women head of household. So the young men that you saw on the streets in Ferguson in the past several weeks have that sense of hopelessness that has been mentioned because they feel they don't have the opportunity for employment. They have, in many cases, graduated or dropped out of a school system that, for whatever reason, did not adequately prepare them for the job market. And they don't have many opportunities in their community. So we have to do things different and better than what we have done in the past. Better Family Life and the Urban League are working together to find a way to collaborate
now
more.
That's new. That in the past you said silos, but now we have large community nonprofit organizations coming together trying to.
Yes, and we have been in those discussions and in the preparation for the past 13 months, and we'll continue that.
Before Ferguson.
Yeah, before Ferguson, and it's been part of our strategic plan to take us into our centennial, because no one of us alone can solve these problems. It involves the entire community, and it involves new collaborations. So the not-for-profit models that have existed in the past will no longer be viable unless we are able to work closer together to have a demonstrable way that we can show how we have made a measurable difference in the community.
How do we work with this new leadership that is growing up in Ferguson? That leadership that people claim were looting. Is that true? Etafia, you stay in Ferguson area. Tell us what was going on out there.
Well, I think that the reality of the situation is that you had some looting that was going on, but it definitely was not at the point of sensationalism that
the media
was pointing out or what have you. The reality is that you had a voiceless population that energy had to be expressed in some way, in some form, in some fashion. And you had a community that was in trauma, that was in significant trauma, and the catalyst was the murder of Michael Brown. So that was the catalyst, but if you peel the layers and you go back, you'll see that it's years of alienation and oppression and harassment from various segments of the people that are supposed to be ultimately protecting them. And there's only so long in which that subculture can exist in that particular manner before that expression of energy is going to take place. So it has nothing to do with how the media has been portraying that. You know, it is really deeper in terms of the levels of oppression that we're dealing with there.
So what do we do to change that whole situation or guide it like we did 26 years ago? You guys came on board. I said, hey, there's some things that we could do here. I mean, what do we do to change it, Jermaine?
I think that this is not just a Ferguson problem or a St. Louis problem. This is a United States. This is a national problem, and I think it stems from corporate America turning their backs on the American worker. They went from a shift to, when I was young, we could go out and get good jobs like at Chrysler. I worked at Chrysler for 15 years. There's no way you could have told me that that plant would ever have closed when I got hired on there, but it happened. And it happened in communities all over the country. And all of these people who graduate from high school used to have an option of going to work in factories, getting a nice livable wage. That has been taken away from them when the corporations went to Mexico. They went to all these other foreign places to get cheap labor.
And you can say the same thing about institutions like Homer G. Phillips Hospital. Shut down. That whole community shut down. Absolutely. I mean, people sit back and go, well, oh, wow, what happened? Well, that was a viable institution that employed people, that trained folks to become doctors. I mean, it just seemed to be like a major just meltdown when this particular building just went away. And you still have that kind of disparity, in especially in North St. Louis City area, when we talk about that, where you don't have the kind of health care that you really need on an emergency basis. Some of those things. So is this a racial situation? Are we talking about racism here in this region or around the country? Or are we just talking about a blatant disregard for human life?
Well, you can't disregard or discount race as a factor in anything. That's always going to be a part of the analysis, but you have to look at class, you have to look at gender, you have to look at all those when you're making the analysis here. But race is always going to be a factor when you talk about you know, again, St. Louis, just in general, is one of the most racially polarized cities in the country. And as a result of that, racial polarization and the lack of opportunity for people to be upwardly mobile is kind of wed to that. So that's something that's always a part of the analysis is race and class and gender.
And then, Robin, the other thing that we've got to do is we've got to make a seat at the leadership table for the individuals who had the guts to stand up and do what they did in Ferguson.
Now, do you think that's going to happen? They made an announcement this past month that there's going to be a citizens review board that's set up. You think they seriously going to ask one of those young individuals out there who's trying to make change sit on that review board? You think that's going to happen?
You know, I think that we got to take a step back. Whether or not they allow a seat for them on that citizens review board, in the African American community, we've got to make a seat for them.
That's right. Okay,
See,
I see. Okay.
So we have very unique challenges right now, and we've got to turn the leadership over to the individuals best qualified.
That's right.
And oftentimes they don't have a college degree. A lot of times they have felony convictions. Conventional leadership cannot change what is going on. So we've got to put our egos in our pockets and let the new wave of leadership sit at the table. They may have dreads. They may speak broken English. They may have tattoos and gold teeth, but they're the only ones that can lead us right now. We got to understand that our leadership goes so far. The best thing we can do is put the right people at the table and give them a voice, just as you did for us. You saw us back then and said, we have got to put these young people in position. And Robin, every place that you took us to meet with Jim Buford. Mike is now the CEO of the Urban League. You took us to meet with Mayor Shamel. Mike and I had the opportunity to work in the mayor's office. You introduced us to Better Family Life. Etafia is now the chairman of the board. Naim works there. Jermaine works there. I work for Better Family Life. So everything has come to a point where we cannot deny that we've got to be able to step up right now and articulate a new direction, not just for St. Louis, but for the nation. Okay. And it's going to take turning the leadership mantle over before the flame and the torch starts to flicker out.
Right.
We got to give it to them right now.
Isn't it about taking it at this point? It's not about just waiting to have these graduation ceremonies.
And,
it's about
properly preparing them too, because there's some things we have to deal with from a larger perspective. And this is the information age now. If we're talking about jobs leaving, and I remember when I was young, you could mess up your life and still go to work for Ford or Chrysler. Well, cars are computers now, because we're in the information age. So you can't just work at Chrysler anymore. You got to make sure that we're giving these new leaders the training that they need for this world and this age. We can't give them the old leadership training anymore. So it's real important that we prepare them and don't just send them out there.
And really understand what's going on in the 21st
Absolutely,
century.
because the vending that you see in Ferguson is a result of a lack of education and proper training to deal with the world that they live in now. When the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. So that's how you're going to deal with your problems. But when you're prepared and trained for the world that you live in, you can respond accordingly.
What James was saying about the mantle being passed in terms of leadership, that this is a movement that is seeking a leader. We don't have an appointed leader at this time.
Do we necessarily need an appointed leader?
But just like we're 51 years post the March on Washington, and it was the images of young black children being arrested and piled into school buses.
Yes.
And
at a time that was very tough for this
country. And the images and Dr. King's story about the promissory note being about the bail that was $100,000 posted for young black children arrested. It was those images that removed the complacency amongst the middle class and spearheaded the change in the movement. And so the images of Ferguson have the opportunity to get it done, be the fire that lights those of us that are in positions and comfortable that will now, one of us shall step up and
we've got to get out of the show right now. I really, 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 really appreciate this. We do need another hour. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today for City Corner, and we'll see you on the next show. Y'all are